Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Amber if you're new here, and I am a graduate student at the University of Florida getting my master's in nutrition and on my way to be a dietitian. So I thought, what better time to help you guys out with the DICAS process of applying to dietetic internships and how to match to your top choice or one of your top choices. So I want to do a little sit down, like older sister mentor type of video and help you guys get into where you want to go. So grab some coffee and sit down. It's gonna be a good one. So I wrote a few things down in this new planner I got for Christmas. I love it. I believe it's from Anthropology. This is a tip outside of the application, but definitely use a planner in college. It'll make your life so much more organized and easy. I love it. But to get back to the subject at hand, my first big tip would be to diversify your resume as much as possible. I personally broke my resume up into like the different sections related to dietetics, as well as my extra work experience. So for example, I had a section for food service, clinical, and community, and then all the other things fit in like a different format. So for example, I have it up here. I chose to do mine on Canva. You definitely don't have to do that. I just wanted to be like creative with it. So for food service, I did some volunteering when I was like doing sports nutrition, making smoothies, as well if you have any jobs in food service, like at a restaurant or whatnot. Community experience was things such as volunteering, like I volunteered at a food pantry for a little bit, as well as some missionary things that I intertwined. And then clinical experience. I know this one might be a little hard given the times and it's very hard to get a clinical position like in a hospital and whatnot, but if you have that, you'd want to put it here. If you're on any research, you could also add this here. And then I had another section for like generalized work experience. Since I was not always like on the dietetic field, I had jobs that were like far different, but I thought it was really good to add these in here because I had so many hours at these jobs, and I think like regardless it's gonna show that you can persevere and keep with a job. And then I don't know if you could see, but on like the left section I did kind of like a highlight section where I did on the top education, including like the school I went to, my GPA, if you took the GRE you can add your score there, as well as a leadership section. I think showing off your leadership is a very important thing to do on your resume and in the whole application in general. And then I had an involvement section for things that weren't related to dietetics, so if you're in any clubs or sororities of those sorts. And then the last section I had was recognitions, so if you get any scholarships or you like complete any workshops, I think you could put those there. So that'd be my first tip. And I would also say, to go along with this, keep close track of your hours when you're in these experiences. When you're putting them on your resume, you're gonna wanna have your hours or dates. I personally chose to do hours. And then when you're in DICAS, they ask you for like your start date and your end date. So if you keep track of this, maybe a log, maybe a journal, it's gonna make applying so much easier and quicker. Tip number 2 is to form good connections with the people you plan to ask for a letter of rec. So whether this is a professor or a dietitian or your boss at a job, just keep in mind that eventually if you ask them to write you a letter of recommendation, they're going to do so much better if they know you, like, I don't want to say on a personal level, but a little bit. Like if you form a good bond with them, they're going to be able to write you so much better of a letter. And I honestly think letters of rec are crucial to the application process, because especially with like COVID and Zoom and not really being able to go in person to interviews or maybe attend fancy, it's like having a professional vouch for you. And I think the directors and like the admissions board can see right through like generalized letter of recs. Like if everyone asks this one professor for a letter of rec and they just have kind of a generic thing, you're not going to stand out, and I think they can tell when that's going on. So also on that, ask early. Like, I guess by the time I'm posting this video, it's a little late in the game. Like, you should already be having those letters of rec formed and like on the way to be inputted into DICAS. But for people not applying in 2021, definitely bring this up early, and even sometimes have like an extra or a backup just in case, because you can input like multiple letters of rec in DICAS and then choose which letter of rec you send to which program. And I also did this, like tailoring which letter of rec went to where based on that program's values and like their mission and like basically what they want to see in an applicant. So that would be my biggest piece of advice with letters of rec. I think they're really important. Don't overlook this part. So tip number 3, also on the theme of starting early, is to start your personal statement as early as possible and let it evolve with time. I know I faced writer's block a lot with my personal statement because it is so difficult to take all these experiences, all your passions, all the things you've learned, and put it into one coherent statement, which is why I would say to start early and have as many eyes look over it and read it and proofread it and give you feedback as possible. As well as you can also tailor your personal statement to the program you apply to. So I had the generalized theme in one personal statement, and then for each program I would change a little bit in some of like the beginning paragraphs, and then mainly like my conclusion I would really hit home on like why I wanted to go to that specific program. These people reading your application want to know why you actually care about their program, like what makes you want to attend there, and they can see that in your writing. It's a good place other than the interview to show like that you've done your research, that you're really truly like interested in attending this program or school. So also don't overlook the personal statements. That is a big one, especially given the times where, as I said, you might not be able to meet them in person or at Fancy or attend open houses. And tip number 4 is definitely going to be a challenge. Any way that you can, especially this year, I feel like making an effort will go a long way, is to connect with the coordinators of the programs you're interested in, if possible. So for example, when I was applying, I got the opportunity to attend Fancy, and I went to like the internship fair or whatever it's called, and could personally go up to the directors, introduce myself, like get to know them, give them a resume. And I know that's not possible this year considering Fancy was online, but you can definitely attend open houses. I'm not sure how many are going on right now in January, if DICAS is due in February, but go to as many of those if possible. If you have questions, you can email them, but just be very careful with your wording in emails. Like, don't email them a question if it's easily found on their website. They'll think you are lazy and didn't do background. So definitely like reach out in a way you can, but with a grain of salt, and like being very conscious and professional in the way that you do that. And my 5th tip is to be self-reflective. I know this might sound a little like random and not totally involved with DICAS, but I think if you can really self-evaluate what your like the SWOT acronym, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We learn to do this and incorporate this in our personal statement actually, but I think this follows through as well with your interviews and applications. And if you know your threats, you can seek opportunities to improve and then also talk about these in your interviews. And I think programs and directors like to see people who are aware of their weaknesses and maybe their like blind spots, and like aren't afraid to admit that they like aren't perfect, but also like how to improve upon that. So like when you go into an interview, I guess I should just do a whole different video about interviews. If you want to see that, please like or comment on this video. I would love to share some tips with you guys about that. But I think just knowing your strengths and weaknesses and like the type of learning environment you enjoy, if you're more independent, if you want to be a little more like handheld through the internship process, this is really good to know for when you're applying to certain programs so that they best fit, and also in the interview so things go to the best way they can. That did not make sense. think you guys get what I'm saying. So those would be my 5 main tips. DICAS is a little tricky. Get that in as soon as you can, because that February 15th, I believe, is the deadline this year, as well as it was last year, is a hard deadline. After that, you cannot submit and you will be out of luck, which is really unfortunate. So try to get as soon as your letters of rec in. I hope everything else is also in, but also don't rush and have like a lower quality. It's kind of a fine line to balance, but I wish you guys seriously all the luck. It should be an exciting process in some ways, and I know you guys will end up exactly where you're supposed to be. If you have any questions, seriously comment below and I will respond. And let me know if there's any other areas you specifically want me to go more in depth. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.